Welcome to Midnight Mule FPL. I'm Midnight Mule and this is the video for Game Week 7 where I look at the popular players in FPL. And by popular players I mean around the rank of about 2.5 million, they're about 10% owned or more, or they've had more than 100,000 transfers in, which unfortunately means this week Watkins isn't one of the players I'm looking at. So I'll say up front now, if you've got Watkins, absolutely worth keeping him for this game week, worth playing him, and if you've not got Haaland, he might be quite a good captaincy shout. You don't have to keep him, but after this week, Watkins may not be worth having. But maybe I should have done the model a bit different to allow players down to about 7.5%. Feel free to let me know what you think, but I didn't notice he was missing till I'd finished the whole thing. I was like, oops, so never mind. Anyway, let's have a look at it. I want to start by looking at the popular players and their popularity in relation to each other. So across the x-axis we have the ownership levels and the y is the price. So right at the top here is the two most expensive players, which would be Haaland and Salah. But around the 2.5 million rank, which is where I'm looking now because that's where I am, Haaland is over 95% owned and he's rising a bit. Salah is 35-ish%. And he is falling, and he's falling very fast. So going back a couple of weeks, I think Salah was more popular than Haaland, but that is not the case at the moment. So if you don't have Haaland and he does well and he's expected to do well, that's going to massively hurt your rank. And then next most popular would be Semenyo around 76 and then João Pedro around 70. These three, Haaland, Semenyo and João Pedro, they're the only players currently around my rank that are 50% owned or more, and they would really hurt me if I didn't own them, but I do own them, so I'm comfortable about that. Now you may think, oh, João Pedro, he's boring, 70% owned, you're not going to get many points. 30% of managers around me don't own him. If he gets 7 pointers, that's 30% of managers have missed out on those 7 points, and all these little things help. Whereas someone down here, let's have a look at this random player here. He won't play, not interested. Suppose Thiago, for example, he's around 3.5% at the moment. If he gets 15 points, so what? I don't care. Doesn't do me any damage. Thiago getting 15 points compared to João Pedro getting 5, let's say. If you owned neither of those, João Pedro is going to massively hurt your rank more, which is why we care about who's popular. Some people may think it's boring going, well, they call them template players, but going for these popular players. But it's not, because you can't fit in the most popular players. If we looked at the 11 most popular players on here, you can't afford them. So then you've got to decide, well, which ones am I going to go for? And if there's a certain player, let's take one randomly here, supposing Kudos, who's around 40%. But if you think, okay, he's highly owned, but I don't think he's going to be that good, you can happily ignore him. And if you ignore a popular player and they don't do well, that's really good for your rank, because it means all these other teams have got a duffer in their team, whereas you've got somebody else in that space who's hopefully doing well. But this year, as an experiment, I'm going to try really hard to, as far as possible, stick to the popular players that I think are going to be all right and see how that goes. So Kudos is the most popular player that I don't own. So I do have Van der Ven, and I also do not have down here Gay or Senesi. They're around 38, 39%. So these three here are very scary for me at the moment. And then Gabriel, I don't have either. He went off injured last night, but Arteta said it was precautionary and he's okay. So I have this cluster here, these four, I don't own, and that is a bit scary. If they get 5, 6, 7 points, that's really not good for my rank. Something else that's worth mentioning is the keepers. Down here is the most popular keeper. This is Raya, around 22%. You can see there are a lot of defenders, midfielders and forwards way more popular than him. So each week I say, as long as you've got a playing keeper, that's okay. That's to do with what damage other managers would do if you don't have the good keeper. And that's been true up to now, but Raya is gradually becoming more popular, and it may be over the next week or two he's going to surpass 30, 40%, in which case you kind of have no choice and you have to have him if you want to preserve your rank. You don't have to have him, you don't have to do anything, but it would be a good idea to have him. So when we look at the players in the minute, the keepers are still the least important when it comes to deciding who to have. These 4 defenders here are important. So Gabriel, Senesi, Gehi and Van de Ven. Now you might think Van de Ven's a duffer and you don't want him, that's fine. But you need to consider that that's the case. And then these midfielders, and Salah versus Saka is going to be very interesting regarding ownership in the coming game weeks. So we'll look at the actual players now, starting with the keepers. And for each of the 4 positions, I've ordered these according to how much damage roughly they're likely to do over the next 4 weeks-ish if you don't own them. So all that to say, that makes Raya the most important keeper. That doesn't mean he's going to score the most points, although he is predicted to. And it doesn't mean you have to own him. But he's the one that you need to be the most scared of if you don't own him. So his expected points for this game week, courtesy of Solo Analytics. There'll be a link in the description. I don't get any kickback from it, but it's a very, very fun site to play with. He's expected to get between 4 and 5 points this game week. If he does do that, and you don't own him, that's like you just got -1 points for your game week score. 5.6 is quite expensive. There are some decent options that are $1 million or so cheaper, but you're then running the risk there. Sanchez was more popular than Raya, but he's now become less popular. But in 2 of the last 3 games, they've been down to 10 men. So yes, they've conceded goals, but they've not had all their players on the pitch. They're at home to Liverpool this game week, but after that, they've got Forest and Sunderland. They may do fine there. So if you're not wildcarding nor free hitting and you have Sanchez, I'd say it's absolutely fine to keep Sanchez. If you've got 5 free transfers and nothing else to do, then you could switch your keeper. But Sanchez is fine. So then we have Vicario. I think Spurs might have kept 3 clean sheets so far. He's okay at 5 million. Donnarumma's a very good keeper, but he's not massively owned at the moment. So he's not going to hurt your rank if you don't own him, whereas Raya is going to hurt your rank if you don't own him. If I was wildcarding, I'd be happy with either Donnarumma or Raya as my main keeper. The issue with either one of those is, of course, if you have them as your main keeper, then you only get 2 either Arsenal or Man City outfield players, and you may want more than that. Newcastle have been very good for clean sheets. So Pope is 5 million, possibly worth it. We don't know how good Newcastle are going to be going forward. And there's an interesting thing with Newcastle and Sunderland being geographically close to each other. It looks like they've got alternating home games. So you could have Pope and Roofs, I think his name is, which is the Sunderland keeper. And then each game week you could play the keeper at home. That's not the way I would play. I'd rather have a player and just play them every week. My ideal for FPL personally is to have 11 players that I play every week and I don't care what the fixture is. And then have people on the bench that if they have to come in, they can. But I see online most managers like to switch players around each week, and I don't like that because I think you can miss out on points. Pickford's a lot of fun, but for 0.1 more, you can get Raya or Donnarumma. Sales has been very, very disappointing. He's not worth having. I'm not saying you should use a transfer to get rid of him, maybe wait to your wild card, but he's not worth having. And the second page, these are all cheaper keepers. Petrovic, 4.5. He's okay. If you've got him, that's fine. I wouldn't buy him. Kelleher's all right again for 4.5. If I had 4.5, I think Roofs is the one that I would actually buy, the Sunderland keeper, but they have been very good. And okay, they've got Man United away. That might be okay. It might be tough. 2 game weeks time, they got Chelsea away, but he's only 4.5 million. And that extra million between him and Raya may really help something else in your squad. And as we saw earlier, the keepers are the least important position. So if you get that one wrong, it's not going to hurt your rank so much. Regarding the defenders, Senesi, given how many points he's likely to get and how popular he is, he's the most important defender at the moment. Expected to get 4.3 points this coming game week. If you don't own him and he does get between 4 and 5, that's like getting -1.6, maybe -2 points. So that is quite a hit. So even though he may only get 4 points and other defenders will get more, he just keeps consistently getting these points because of the defensive contributions. Gabriel, I put here don't buy because I put the graphics together yesterday. That was because I put this together when he'd gone off injured. If it's the case we find out he's absolutely fine, then he's actually a good buy and he should be green. If we don't get confirmation, he's still all right to buy, but you're taking a potential risk. What if he doesn't play? And of course, part of this could be to do with the international break coming up. If he doesn't play against West Ham, then Arsenal can say, oh, look, he's not fit, he can't go. Whereas if he does play against West Ham and doesn't get injured, then it's going to be harder to argue that he can't go on an international break. That may be cynicism, but that may be what's going on. If you've got Gabriel, absolutely keep him, no problem having him. If you're wildcarding this game week, I think it's fine to put him in because he doesn't actually have an injury, probably. Gay's very popular, he's picking up nice points. And Van de Ven's very popular, but not expected to score as many points as the other three on the screen. So these are by far the most popular defenders. If any of these do well this coming game week and you don't own them, that is going to hurt your rank. Now, it's not going to hurt your rank so much so that you need to take hits to get them in, but you need to be aware they're going to hurt your rank if they do well. Then Pedro Porro, but he is falling in popularity. Virgil van Dijk, but Liverpool have been a bit defending, and Alisson, their goalkeeper, he's now injured. He's definitely missing the next game week, and he could be out for a bit longer after that. So the chances of Liverpool keeping clean sheets has diminished somewhat. If you've got him, that's fine. Personally, I wouldn't be bringing him in now, though. Munoz, nice and attacking, more expensive than Gahey, much lower owned. He's not going to do you as much damage. He's expected to get a few more points potentially than Mark Gahey, but because he's lower owned, because he's more expensive, he's nothing to worry about too much. Tarkowski, he's a good player, absolutely worth having. If you can get him in, that's fine, but he's not going to be hurting you too much. Cucurellas, he's falling in popularity. He's not going to be hurting you too much. And then other popular defenders, but these aren't actually going to hurt you at the moment. Konza. So Villa haven't been great. They've got Burnley at home. So if you've got Konza, absolutely worth keeping him. If you're free hitting, you could get him in, but there's no way I would get him in at the moment. And if you wanted to move him on for restructuring, that's fine. After this game week, it'd be fine to get rid of him though. So Timber and Calafiori for Arsenal. If we knew they get 90 minutes, there'd probably be in a lot more teams. But there's always a bit of a fear. What about rotation? What if they miss out on a game or they don't get 60 minutes in the game so they don't get the clean sheet? They do both have some very nice attacking potential, but at the moment they're low enough owned that you don't need to worry about them. But if you want to own them, that's fine. Just be aware you may sometimes miss out on some minutes. And then what we've got down as bench fodder, Goodmanson, Alderete and Esteve for Leeds, Sunderland and Burnley. These are all picking up some defensive contribution points. Electric Steve, he got 2 goals last game week. Very exciting. It was in his own net, so a bit less exciting there. Alderete got a goal in the right net, so that was worth a lot of points to him. But any of these in any game week could do quite well. At the moment, if I was going to have one of these, it'd probably be Alderete, but that may just be recency bias. But they've all got quite nice fixtures in game week 8. So if you've not used your bench boost yet and you wanted to use it in game week 8 and you had any of these defenders, Goodmanson's against Burnley, Alderete's against Wolves, Electric Steve's against Leeds. They're all nice fixtures next game week. Next game week might be an alright game week to bench boost. Right, the midfielders. I want to bring up the 3 most popular together here. That's Semenyo, Rangers and Salah. So they're all good players. According to Solio Analytics, this game week, Salah is expected to score 5.5 points. Obviously, it won't be 5.5, but 5.5 is the projection. Semenyo's 4.8 and Rangers is 4. However, if you don't own these, and that's what they score, Semenyo's going to get you minus 3.7 effectively because so many other managers own him. Rangers would be minus 2 and Salah would be minus 1.9. So although Salah's projected to get the most points, he's now the least damaging of these 3 if you don't own him. If Salah scores against Chelsea, I'm expecting his ownership to go up because they're home to Man United next, and there Salah traditionally does well against United. However, if Salah doesn't get a return against Chelsea, I think his ownership's likely to go down, and then Saka's going to go up quite a bit, especially if Saka scores. All 3 of these are good players, but you may find it difficult to have Salah and the other players you want. And Salah has been massively sold. So if you're wanting to sell him, that's fine because it frees up a position and it frees up a lot of money. And then maybe think of a way of getting him back in game week 12. You're probably not going to get massively hurt over the next few game weeks if you don't own Salah. But of course, he could suddenly turn up and start being very good. Kudos is very popular. He is a very good player, but he's slightly waning in popularity, but nowhere near as much as Salah because he's only 6.7. So Fernandes, if you've got him, he's fine to have. He's playing at home to Sunderland this game week. He should be a good player, but he's now missed 2 penalties so far this season. So there is some fear online. Are the penalties going to go to Mbeumo now? And if he loses his penalties and he costs 9 million, then he's probably not worth having. Now, if you're free hitting this game week, I think it's fine to get him in. And if you've got him, it's fine to keep him this game week. But apart from that, if I was wildcarding, I wouldn't be buying him. If I wasn't wildcarding, I definitely wouldn't be bringing him in. Grealish is popular. He's the next most popular after, I think, Semenyo, Rangers, Salah and Kudos. He's a good player, but I think he's maybe only returned in 2 of his games. The last 2 he's not really done so much. But he's got Palace, Man City can't play, Spurs, Sunderland. He could return in a couple of those. If you've got him, absolutely don't need to be moving him on. If you've not got him, personally, I wouldn't be buying him at the moment. Endai is slightly cheaper than Grealish, and he's looking more promising, more popular, and of course he plays next week against Man City if you need him. So if I had to buy one of those 2 now, at the moment, it would be Endai. Enzo's quite popular, but he's very good at just ticking along at getting the points. It may be he's on penalties when Palmer's not around. And Mbeumo is a good player. Now, he's $1 million cheaper than Fernandes. He's playing more advanced up the pitch. And at the moment, if I had to have one of those, I think I'd probably go for Mbeumo. If I was free hitting, I'd probably get Fernandes and Mbeumo this game week. If I was wildcarding, I probably wouldn't get either one. And then Gakpo. So Ekiteke may be injured from Liverpool, so that may help Gakpo. But last I heard, we don't know for sure that Ekiteke's not playing. Gakpo's all right. There's no way I'd bring him in because there's so many other players that I want at the moment. And Liverpool, their last 2 games they've lost, including in Europe. So are they a little bit dodgy at the moment? They're still top of the Premier League. They're still a very good side. If you've got him, he's fine to have. Personally, I wouldn't be bringing him in at the moment. Second page in midfielders, and at time of recording, none of these are going to seriously hurt your rank if they do well. But of course, between now and the deadline tomorrow night, some of these may be bought quite heavily. So Eze, the issue with him, he's a very good player, but his minutes are unlikely to be 80 plus week after week after week, because at the moment Arsenal have a very good squad of fit players. If we knew he was playing nearly 90 minutes every game week, most teams would have him. And without being on the pitch for enough minutes, of course, you have less chance of getting good points. If you've got him, that's fine. Personally, I wouldn't bring him in, but I wouldn't be surprised if nearly every game week, the next few game weeks, he gets a goal or an assist. He is a very good player, but a little bit dodgy just for the minutes for me. Saka's a good player. He's currently fit. He came on in the European game last night, which means he's fit and he should be quite well rested. So I'd expect him to start against West Ham and get good minutes. And Arsenal are now coming into their good run of fixtures. If Saka scores this game week and Salah doesn't score, I'd expect next game week, for game week 8 after the international break, Saka would be higher owned than Salah. So you could take a risk there and dump Salah for Saka. Quite a lot of managers have done that. And of course it frees up a lot of money. Caicedo's nice and cheap and ticks along, getting the defensive contributions. So Doku, if he plays 80 plus minutes, he's absolutely brilliant. We should all have him. But Pep Roulette, there's always the risk. He's not going to play, but he has got good minutes the last couple of game weeks. Personally, I wouldn't go there because I'd be too scared of the minutes, and there are plenty of other players I want, but he is a perfectly good player. Anthony, nice and cheap. If you're bench boosting next week, he's good to have. Or if you just need a cheap-ish midfielder that sometimes sits on your bench, he's very good to have. He's getting good points at the moment. Sarr is back from injury. He's a very good player. His popularity is probably going to go up a lot in the next few game weeks. 6.4 million. Absolutely fine to get in if you want him. He's a good choice. Between Sarr and Eze, even if they're the same price, I'd probably go for Sarr because Sarr's going to be getting the minutes. Gravenberch, He's ticking along nicely. 5.6. He does take up a Liverpool slot, but he's okay. I wouldn't get him because he takes up a midfield spot and it's so hard to fit in all the players that I want. But he's all right. If you've got him, there's nothing wrong with him at all. Minter's very nice player, nice and attacking, good chance of points. But none of these are going to hurt you. And my whole philosophy this season, the way I'm trying to play, is trying to get the players that are going to hurt me. But Minte, hopefully he'll become popular because it would be nice to have him. If you want to get him in, he's a good player. If I didn't care about EO, the effective ownership, Minte would be quite high on my list of midfielders I'd be happy to have. Obviously don't buy dudes before this game week. He's suspended. He's got 5 yellows this season already after 6 games. At least 2 of which were ridiculous yellows that probably shouldn't have been. But hey, there you go. He's currently in my team. If I wildcard, I get rid of him. If I'm not wildcarding, obviously I keep him. He's fine. Now for the forwards. Haaland, João Pedro and Gyökeres, as we saw earlier, are the most popular. Haaland is in 95% of the team. João Pedro, I think, was around 70%. So those 2 are really, really important. If there's one of those you don't have, then you should quite rightly be a bit scared when the game week starts because you may be in for a lot of pain. Gyökeres, from what I've seen online and what I've seen in the matches, he's not been super impressive. And I think some managers who have got him and maybe wish they didn't get him. But he may well do very well in the upcoming run of fixtures. West Ham, Fulham, Palace, Burnley. He could get a lot of points. So he's absolutely fine to have. And these 3 on the screen at the moment are the most popular set of strikers to have. Absolutely fine to have. Nothing wrong with any of them. You really should have Haaland in your team though. João Pedro's less important, but he could do all right. Richarlison's the next most popular. He's in my team at the moment. I brought him in last week, which in retrospect was probably a mistake. I'm a bit nervous about his minutes, but Solanke's not back yet, so he should be okay. Away to Leeds. Leeds have been defensively good this season so far. Then he's at home to Villa. He's all right, but if I was wildcarding or free hitting, I wouldn't be getting him. Mateta, a very good player. Probably going to grow in popularity a bit, especially now Sarr's back. He might help him to get points. But the trouble with Mateta is Haaland, João Pedro and Gyökeres are all going to be a lot more popular the next several game weeks. So you can't really get him in. People who do have him probably have him instead of Gyökeres. They may go for him instead of João Pedro because they think he's going to outscore him. But if they get that call wrong, it's going to hurt them. Now, I've also made of Newcastle. I personally really like him as a pick. And if I was free hitting, I think I'd almost certainly get him in. And I'm tempted to get him anyway, even though he's lowly owned. Now, he might only get 1 goal or 2 goals every 3 games, something like that. He's 7.1 million. I just like him as a player, I think. So, tactically, he may not be the best to get, but the fixtures are fine. Forest have been rubbish recently. Brighton, Fulham, West Ham. He could score in any of those. Isak, he's not getting the minutes yet. He looks like he's not fully match fit, but he will get some minutes. But Liverpool's fixtures turn from about game week 12, so there's no rush to get him in at the moment. But he is a good player. If you've got him, of course you're going to be playing him. You don't have to sell him. But if you don't have him, you don't have to worry about him. He's not going to hurt your rank. Chris Wood's been disappointing after game week 1. His ownership is massively falling. He won't hurt your rank. Ekiteke's currently flagged as injured. If you've got him, absolutely worth moving on, I think, because Isak can take that role anyway. There are better forwards to get. Thiago's, so he's got over 100,000 transfers in. That's why he's in the system. He's not going to hurt your rank at all at the moment. But he is 6 million. So if you wanted to free up a bit of cash and you couldn't afford Gyökeres, it might be you have Thiago and somehow that helps the rest of your team be okay. And if he ever has to play for you, he should be okay. And then second page of forward, a couple of bench options. That's Foster and Mark Gahey. Anytime you had to play Foster at 5 million, he's absolutely fine to play. No worries there. He could get you a goal, maybe an assist. Probably get you 2 points though. Mark Gahey's unlikely to play. Neither of these are going to hurt your rank if you don't own them. Now going to look at the benching order, starting with the keepers, which is a bit pointless because you probably have Dubravka and another keeper. And I think this game week, you're probably going to play the other keeper. However, just in case you don't have Dubravka, this is my preferred order for this game week. It'd be Raya, then Pope, Donnarumma, Pickford, Petrovic, Vicario, Sanchez, Kelleher, Roofs, Sales, and then it's Dubravka right at the end. Now for the other players, apart from 6 that I've put aside for captaincy choices, which if you've got, you should be playing, this is my preferred order for the other players if you're unsure who to play. It'd be João Pedro, Altamade, Gabriel, Califoye, Reinders, Mbeumo, who I know is really Bumo, but I like saying Mbeumo, Sarr, Mateta, Munoz, Virgil van Dijk, Senesi, Gakpo, Isak, Kudos, Ndaye, Gay, Tarkowski, Timber, Doku, Van de Ven, Pedro Porro, Minte, Eze, Ekiteke, Grealish, Richarlison, Enzo. Then Anthony, Konza, Foster, Caicedo, Chris Wood, Thiago, Gravenberch, Cucurella, Goodmanson, Alderete, Electric Steve, Mark Gahey, Dewsbury Hall, of course, who's not even playing. Now, what you can do is you can just go to Solo Analytics, link below, I don't get a kickback, and if you put your team in there, it will show you the preferred order, but that is based purely on their predicted points they're going to get this coming game week, and it doesn't take into account their popularity. Whereas I like to try and think, but how much you're going to regret benching them, what damage will it do if you bench them and they do well. Regarding captaincy, Haaland has to be the safest choice. He's been doing very well recently, he's very highly owned, and most managers who have him are going to be captaining him. So if you own Haaland and you don't captain him, then every point he gets is going to be negative for you. So the safe thing to do is to have Haaland and to captain him. That doesn't mean you have to. There are other choices. For example, Saka, if you've got him, he would be a very good captaincy choice this game week. At home to West Ham, he's currently predicted to get about the same score as Haaland. And then Salah, he's all right away to Chelsea. Chelsea have got a couple of defensive issues this game week, a couple of key defenders missing. So he may do all right. He's not yet kicked into gear for this season. Maybe it's going to be an off season for him, or maybe he's going to suddenly take off. But as we said earlier, his ownership is waning. You could possibly afford to switch him to Saka. I've not yet decided what I'm doing for my team. I really haven't decided yet. And then Fernandes, he would be an all right captaincy choice at home to Sunderland. Gyökeres at home to West Ham. You could go there if you wanted to. Or even Semenyo, because he's being quite consistent at the moment. Any of these are fine for captaincy, any are fine for vice captaincy, but as always in a single game week, don't choose 2 from the same match. So don't go Saka as captain and Gyökeres as vice captain, just in case, bizarrely randomly, the game gets postponed. If you don't want to do 2 of these, or you can't, then any of the green midfielders or forwards from the previous pages would be absolutely fine. And I really am trying to make these videos short and I'm massively failing. So sorry about that. Hopefully some of that was useful. I was hoping to get this video out last night, but there was a lot going on in the house and I couldn't manage it. So I'm doing it now. Hopefully someone will have time to watch this. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck for Game Week 7. Thanks. Bye.